Hey guys, so I am home, obviously, and I am so extremely exhausted, and I'm just telling you this because this video might be a little meandering or a little nonsensical, and so if it is, I apologize, but it's Sunday, it's my day to post, and I wanted to introduce this week's theme, which is boundaries, and also just say that having been at Summit, I wasn't as tuned in to this group, as I usually am. And I feel bad about that. I feel like I don't know what's been happening with you guys. So I'm going to be going back through all of your posts, but when you post your accomplishment, your success from the past week, when you post it in the comments, just let me know too if there's anything you're struggling with or anything kind of special about this past week, anything that you need help with, and I can comment on that sooner instead of waiting to go back through all the posts since the day I left. Oh my gosh, yeah, so like last night I only slept for 2 hours because I had to get up at 3:30 to go to the airport, and the closing ceremony got over at 11, and then it's a long walk back to our hotel, and then I had to pack. So the 2 nights before, it was 4.5 hours each, and so yeah, so just by way of explanation of why I'm kind of brain dead right now, and you're just going on fumes, essentially. It was very exciting to be hearing all the announcements and seeing friends, and now that I'm home, I'm totally crashing. So I'm going to try and talk about boundaries for you and remember what I wanted to say. But so setting boundaries is an important part of self-care, really crucial. And you know, it's basic stuff like if you have your time for your workout, for the most part, you know, unless there's an emergency, not letting anyone or anything intrude on that. That time is sacred. Like, you know, once in a while, like if Sean had an early morning flight that he was going somewhere without me, I'd take him to the airport and do my workout at a different time of day. But, you know, if he's asking me, hey, just stay in bed and cuddle for a little longer, like, it was kind of tempting, but, you know, most days I just say, no, I'm going to get up and work out. And that's an example that's not really like emotionally loaded. So those are the times when, you know, it's kind of easy to set boundaries, but you convey a message about your values or about what you value with every boundary that you set. Those of you who are parents do a lot of it with your kids. And in that case, you're probably setting boundaries more for them, for their sake, than for your own. You know, if they say something that's rude, it might hurt your feelings, but more likely you're telling them that they can't do that because you don't want them to be rude to someone else. So that's kind of a different, you know, the boundaries in that case are serving the child more than they're serving you. So it's kind of interesting how the meaning differs from situation to situation. I'm someone who's had or who has not had a lot of trouble setting boundaries in kind of like, I want to say like low stakes situations. So like I really don't have trouble saying no. Probably even, you know, it's a little too easy for me to say no to things, you know, like at work. You know, sometimes you have your own things to do and your coworker asks you for help on something, and, you know, you have to kind of choose between getting your work done and kind of keeping your time for yourself versus being a team player and helping them and setting aside what you need to get done. So, you know, an important part of this is that there is really no right answer, but this is something that takes continuous study and introspection. It's not like I got it always. You know, there's always going to be situations that trip us up, but we can get better at setting boundaries. We get practice at it to like find the words to say no and things like that. And as we deal with these situations more and more, instead of avoiding them or, you know, always saying yes to helping people out, even when you don't have time and even when, you know, you're sacrificing other things, you know, such as rest for yourself and things like that. But so the more that you actually practice setting boundaries, it does get easier. And you kind of learn where your own lines are. So like, oh my gosh, it's hard to think of an example or of examples when you're so tired, but you know, like it doesn't come up that much anymore. But like if I had friends who wanted to go out late on a weeknight, that's pretty much something I just automatically say no to, because I know that that's not part of my self-care. That if I'm out until 1 a.m. on a weeknight, and I used to do that all the time in my 20s, but you know, that's a different story. But to do that now would not serve me well for operating on all cylinders at work the next day. So I just don't even consider it, you know? So like I was saying, I don't have a lot of trouble setting boundaries in low stakes situations. And I'd love to hear below if you feel like you're kind of similar to me. But where I have trouble sometimes is the situations that are a little more high stakes. So let me explain what I mean by that. So anything with my husband, I guess with like a close relationship that I don't want to poison, don't want to ruin. I mean, not that I think one comment is going to ruin my marriage, of course not. But I just tread more carefully because, you know, in the low stakes situations, I don't really care if I offend anyone. If there's a friend who gets like super hurt that I don't go out late on a weeknight, either, you know, they can say something to me and we can have a conversation about it, or they can get really upset but not tell me. And, you know, like they're responsible for their own reaction, and I'm very clear on that, that's not my responsibility. But where I struggle is with, I guess people that I would be really just devastated to lose from my life is maybe what it is. But so like, or the relationships that, you know, where I've tried setting boundaries and it didn't work very well, and I kind of have to keep trying and decide how I'm going to respond when, you know, the other person doesn't respond how I had hoped. So I have one relative who I feel, you know, doesn't treat me in a way that's, I mean, not just one, but one in particular doesn't treat me in a way that is like emotionally healthy. And it's kind of a constant struggle because I don't want to cut this person out of my life, but just to constantly have to keep saying things and have this person not understand, and you know, then you're in a fight, and like it's just awful. And it would be easier to just avoid it, but what I've learned is that I respect myself more when I draw a line, stand up for my own needs, speak my mind. We're only responsible for our part. So, you know, there's boundaries with time, which is, I think, a little easier. And then there's boundaries with how you want to be treated. And that one requires really paying close attention to how you feel when you're interacting with other people. You know, family members, work situations, I think, are also hard because, you know, I had a bad boss once who was just really cruel and unreasonable and all kinds of things. But I didn't want to lose my job, and, you know, I just was kind of afraid to stand up to her because, or it was more like I just got sick of having to stand up to her, and it became easier not to, but then I was not being treated very well at work, and it was extremely stressful. So again, there's no right answer. Like, there was no good solution to that situation. I ended up leaving my job for, you know, that and other reasons. But what I want to say is this isn't always like snap your fingers and, you know, bam, you're good at creating boundaries. And even if you set these boundaries by communicating directly. So building on what we talked about last week, if you set the boundaries by communicating directly, many times it works out great, but sometimes it still doesn't. And then, you know, it's not that you did anything wrong. Sometimes no matter what you do, the person is going to be unreasonable because they're not in their own emotionally healthy space. So all you can do is own your part. And I just want you to keep that in mind. And I guess I would like to know, and this can get a little personal, so if you want to private message me, I'd love that too. But if you're comfortable sharing in the comments, I'd love to hear, you know, or for you to share it in the forum so that the group can see, and you can, you know, not use names and any of that, of course. But if there's a situation where you drew a boundary and you were really proud of yourself for doing that, or where you're struggling, like you feel like you need to draw a line because the line like keeps getting crossed by some person in your life, but you're not sure how, or like how to find the words. I found it can be pretty helpful to get some outside perspectives on things and a little bit of friendly, supportive advice. So if you have any situations like that, share them if you feel comfortable, and maybe we can help. Yeah, okay. So sharing any situations, success stories of setting boundaries, situations you're struggling with. If you have a way you can set a boundary in your life this coming week, you know, a boundary for time or how you want to be treated, share that. Let's hear that. And then also a success from the past week regarding communication, which was the theme last week, or just in general. All right, this video is long enough. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll be catching up on your posts, but let me know again below if there's anything going on that I need to know about. Thanks, guys.